Most people believe the International Monetary Fund exists to help countries in times of crisis. But the reality is far more complex. The IMF has the power to influence entire economies, shaping policies that affect millions of lives. And yet, most people never question how this power actually works. The International Monetary Fund, commonly known as the IMF, was founded in 1944 after World War II. Its purpose was simple: stabilize the global economy and provide financial assistance to countries facing economic collapse. On the surface, the idea sounds noble. Nations in crisis receive financial support to rebuild their economies and restore stability. But the real influence of the IMF goes far beyond simple financial aid. When a country experiences economic trouble, it often turns to the IMF for emergency loans. These loans can reach billions of dollars and are designed to prevent financial collapse. However, the money rarely comes without conditions. These conditions are known as austerity measures. Governments receiving IMF loans are often required to cut public spending, increase taxes, privatize state-owned industries, and restructure their economies. These policies are intended to stabilize finances, but they often place heavy pressure on ordinary citizens. Healthcare budgets shrink. Education funding decreases. Prices for basic goods rise. While governments attempt to meet IMF requirements, the social cost can be enormous. This is where the true power of the IMF begins to reveal itself. The organization does not simply lend money. It shapes economic policy. Countries accepting IMF programs must follow detailed financial plans designed by international economists and advisors. These plans influence national budgets, economic reforms, and even political priorities. In many cases, governments have limited freedom to design their own economic strategies. The conditions of IMF loans often guide the direction of entire national economies for years. The conditions of IMF loans often guide the direction of entire national economies for years. And these decisions are not always made in public view. The leadership and voting structure of the IMF gives significant influence to a small number of powerful nations. Countries with larger financial contributions hold greater voting power within the organization. This means that global economic decisions are often shaped by the interests of a few dominant economies. Behind closed doors, financial experts and policymakers negotiate agreements that affect millions of people across the world. Yet the citizens living under these policies rarely participate in the decisions that shape their economic future. Throughout modern history, many countries have experienced the long-term effects of IMF programs. Nations such as Greece, Argentina, and Pakistan have entered IMF agreements during periods of economic crisis. While these programs provided immediate financial support, they often came with difficult adjustments. In Greece, austerity policies triggered years of economic hardship and public protests. In Argentina, repeated IMF programs became a symbol of national debt struggles. In Pakistan, economic reforms tied to IMF support have shaped government budgets and financial policy for decades. Supporters of the IMF argue that these measures are necessary to stabilize economies and restore financial confidence. Critics argue that such policies prioritize debt repayment and financial markets over the welfare of ordinary citizens. Regardless of perspective, one thing is clear. The IMF plays a powerful role in the global financial system. It acts as a central node in a vast network connecting governments, financial markets, and international institutions. Through loans, policy recommendations, and economic oversight, the IMF influences the direction of national economies across the globe. This influence rarely appears dramatic. There are no armies or visible signs of control. Instead, the power of the IMF operates quietly through financial agreements, economic policy, and debt obligations. Money becomes the instrument of influence. Countries that rely on international loans often find themselves navigating a delicate balance between economic survival and national independence. Accepting financial support can stabilize markets, but it can also bind governments to policies shaped far beyond their borders. Over time, this creates a global system where financial institutions hold enormous influence over national decision-making. The modern world runs on debt, investment, and financial stability. Institutions like the IMF exist to manage that system, but their power raises important questions about sovereignty, accountability, and the balance between global cooperation and national control. The next time you hear about international aid, financial rescue programs, or economic stabilization, remember that behind every agreement lies a complex structure of influence. Money does not just move markets. Money shapes governments. Money shapes societies. And sometimes, money quietly shapes the destiny of nations. The real question is not whether the IMF helps countries. The real question is how much control comes with that help, and who ultimately holds the power.